Today on Talk About Your Community, what if your members didn't just chase badges for a week and disappear, but kept coming back, contributing, and helping each other month after month? That's the promise behind Infinite Gamification. Motivate your team until the end of time. And today's guest, Toby Beresford, literally wrote the book on it. He's a veteran digital strategist and gamification expert who's helped organizations from the UN to global brands use simple scores and leaderboards to turn casual participants into steady contributors. He's also a regular media commentator on Sky News and other outlets where he's called in as a social media and tech expert to unpack how platforms shape our behavior. So today we'll explore how community builders can borrow the same scoring and feedback techniques to spotlight meaningful behaviors like thoughtful replies, peer support, and knowledge sharing without resorting to gimmicks. If you're tired of engagement that spikes and crashes as soon as the contest ends, stick around. Toby's going to share some practical, human-centered ways to keep your community playing the infinite game together. Kalisa, let's roll the opening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may happen to be. You've tuned into Talk About Your Community. I'm Todd Nilson, your host with Clocktower Advisors, and I am a community builder and architect who works with organizations building online, offline, and my favorite hybrid style communities. And I'm really glad you're able to join us today. If you're here for the first time on the show, welcome. It is a live and interactive show, and would love to hear any kind of shout outs in the comments. Where you're tuning in from, what questions you have for Toby, what questions you have about community building in general. We're always glad to take interested questions from observers who come in to be a part of the show. So as we do this show, I always kind of like to look back and look forward to things that we've got going on the program here. We just had our first show of the year a couple of weeks back with Andy Simon, talking about the anthropology view of community building. She was an absolutely amazing guest. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, you can find it on YouTube and by going back through the company page for Clocktower Advisors here on LinkedIn to review that particular event. We also have a podcast if you just prefer to listen to things while you're on the road, taking a walk in the gym. You can tune into the Clocktower Advisors Talk About Your Community show on your favorite podcasting outlets. So also, before we get started here with Toby, our next stream is coming up on Friday, February the 6th. We always do our shows on Fridays around 10 a.m. U.S. Central Time. And my guest is going to be Dane Dunstan, somebody that I met a little earlier this year. Absolutely wonderful human being. He's going to be talking about the topic of reclaiming your community genius. He's the author of the book Being Essential and talks about how the genius that we have as children, and we're all geniuses as children, is something that we kind of forget about or we limit ourselves as we grow older. And his book and his approach is all about reclaiming some of that genius for yourself. So I hope you'll join us for that. It is up on the Clocktower Advisors company page now. You can sign up for that as an upcoming event as well. But you're not here for all of that. You're here for a conversation here with Toby Beresford, and he's going to be joining us here on screen in a second. Looks like he's having maybe a little technical difficulty. We lost his camera here for a second, but we'll get him back on. Toby wrote the book Infinite Gamification, and he's based in the UK. And the book has been really interesting because of a couple of different approaches that he's taken with community building. And looks like he's having a little bit of a tech issue here, so we'll be having him on here in just a second. Looks like he had to do a quick reboot here. There he is. All right, he's back on. Toby, welcome to the show. It's great to see you, man.
Hey, Todd. So nice. Thank you for having me on.
So Toby, for people meeting you for the first time, can you give a little bit of a background about what initially got you interested in gamification as a technique for getting people more interested and involved with communities or games or whatever context a business may have for bringing game thinking into into their effort and whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah, thank you. So my gamification interest as a word it was 2011 was when I sort of first picked it up. And before that time, I've been working in some shape or form in community building in lots of different ways. And I was at the time running an agency, a social media games agency, mainly focused on Facebook games. I was running the Facebook Developer Garage in London. So we got lots of people from all around the world who were trying to figure out what this relatively new at the time, social media kind of engagement, what would happen to us when we're engaging with each other via social media. And for me, gamification was the layer on top. I think the South by Southwest at the time, they called it the game layer at the top of the universe or something like that. And that it was okay. So I'm using these tools to do community, to communicate, but gamification was that kind of next level to and my kind of thinking on it really was that, okay, this is obviously something that people need in order to make the best use of these tools. So how do we kind of design that and shape that in such a way that it's good gamification rather than sending them off down sort of rabbit holes or down routes that don't actually work for them.
I know gamification as a term is sometimes a bit of a hang up for corporate organizations. I know in years past, I've even gotten reactions from executive leaders who said, well, I don't want to incorporate games in my business. This isn't fun and games. This is serious stuff that we're doing. But I know that some people have kind of turned the page around that. I think a maturity has entered the marketplace, recognizing that gamification is somewhere on the spectrum of engagement as a tactic. But I'm kind of wondering, have you kind of run into resistance to that term over the years?
Yeah, of course. I think there's lots, like any design system, you're going to get good and bad examples of it. And certainly if you present something as too gamey and you don't culturally translate something into the world of whatever it is, insurance or finance, the idea of bringing something that's very gamey, I don't know, pirates and quests, and bringing that into the world of finance is clearly going to cause a kind of a dissonance. And they're going to go, well, I don't want to play a game. I'm doing my tax return. I'm figuring out, I'm doing $1 billion transaction. Don't do that. But the point of gamification really is that those underlying mechanics, the things that help that we enjoy when we play games and we find satisfying, the dopamine hit, the following, getting rewarded when we do something that is in the right direction, that signposted, those are basic human kind of needs. And actually we can translate those that kind of those feedback mechanisms into the world which you're trying to gamify. So I would, for anybody who says that, a bit like you just said, I wouldn't get too hung up on the word gamification. The underlying thinking is still absolutely right. You're still designing to motivate people, to signpost them in the right direction, but gamification is kind of just the word we use because we first saw this in the world of games. It's not really. It's these are basic human fundamentals that we're kind of tapping into.
Yeah, and I mean, and games have been with us literally for thousands of years, and there's a reason that they've stuck around, because they are interesting and they engage us and they keep us going. Even thinking back to early Mesopotamian times, and like I don't know if you ever looked at any Professor Finkel's stuff around like early Middle Eastern games, and like they'd be so diverting that in times of famines that people would play these games to not be thinking about how hungry they were. Something that's human.
Well, the one that I think of with that is Shackleton's expedition to, I can't remember whether it's Antarctic or Arctic, excuse me, one or the other, but they all got stuck in the ice, didn't they, for sort of 6, 7, 8, got a good part of a year. and he kept everyone diverted by organizing cricket on the ice. And that
Yes.
was so that, you know, there's a whole kind of thing around kind of games that keeps, you know, you can imagine them play. I mean, cricket is a game that can be played over 5 days for one cricket, which ends in a draw. So it's a good
Brilliant.
example that
Yes.
we still want to play games. And so Shackleton used it for a different purpose, didn't he? He used the game to keep people alive and not get bored just sitting twiddling their thumbs.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and then I wanted to draw this back to your book as well, which was by the way, just an absolutely fascinating read. Infinite Gamification. I'll put it up there on the screen there for anybody that hasn't had a chance to see it. You can buy it at finer outlets around the web, including Amazon. I think Calisa will put a link up there for you around it for anybody who's interested in it. But I wanted to look at the other term that you use in the title, which is infinite. So infinite games versus finite games, that's kind of a thing. Like I think of finite games as zero-sum games where there's a winner and a loser. But infinite games are things that kind of go on forever, maybe. I'm wondering if you maybe would care to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. And certainly, I mean, when I was hosting a software as a service platform called Leaderboarded or Rise, and we saw tens of thousands of these scoring systems come through the system from different places. A lot of them in North America were designing it, and one of the things that is very noticeable is that a lot of initial gamification is short term. So if you take that classic sort of sales gamification, who can make the most cold calls by Thursday goes to the top of the leaderboard, and you get that kind of thing. And what you see with that type of gamification, and nothing, I'm sort of at the stage now where I'm not necessarily, there's no one design is necessarily better or worse, but it really just depends on the context and what you're trying to do. And the what you do get with that finite short-term gamification is you get you get a lot of burst of energy, you really get engagement. Those sales reps will be super engaged for the whatever 24 72-hour period that you run the competition. The bigger the reward that you hang on the kind of the at the top of the leaderboard for whoever gets the most will also be engaging. The difficulty that you have with that sort of gamification is really twofold. One is it's quite difficult to maintain. You know, you have to keep doing it over again and again, and people do get tired or bored. The other one is more interesting, which is that actually, if I'm seeing the reason for doing the activity to be purely the reward, that short term I'm going to win, then over time I won't continue to do it. It's not for me. I'm not perceiving it as a benefit to me, and so actually, for me personally, I really think that if as kind of motivational designers, as gamification designers, the infinite gamification, where you're designing something that's really that can continue sustainably forever, if the good gamification, that's really kind of the dream, then actually you're going to get something that not only nudges people to the behaviors that will be better for them, but you also signpost the behaviors that are better for you or for you, what you're representing as an organization or as a community. And the best example of this is the one that many of us are really familiar with, which is a Fitbit. A Fitbit watch and this 10,000 steps, wherever that comes from, it doesn't matter. The point is that actually we have in the Fitbit a kind of a gamification system where I get my Fitbit and I will want to kind of get to my 10,000 steps a day. Let's just choose the basic ones for now. 10,000 steps a day, and I can continue doing that for the rest of my life if I choose, right? If you've ever seen the film The Two Popes, he's got a Fitbit, and the Fitbit reminds him to move. But the point is that that Fitbit is my gamification of myself, and I can keep doing it infinitely. And there may be, I'm not doing it because there's a prize or there's a finite, Toby, you must do 10,000 steps a week. I may choose to add that, and I may choose to have a competition with my friends or my family, but that's not core to the experience. And so when I'm thinking about infinite gamification as a kind of a design goal, it's really how do I create a system that allows the individual to be the best they can be, and give them the feedback to allow them to do that in the parameters which I'm I'm setting, I think, is good for the individual and for us as a community.
I love that. And so when that boils down in online settings, gamification is usually expressed in things like points, badges, leaderboards, but more subtly in things like completion bars or the like button or emojis of different sorts. I'm wondering which of those you feel are kind of working out right now, and are there elements that you tend to shy away from in your own designs?
Yeah. Again, there's no one right or wrong. I mean, but it does depend on the context. So if the ones that you as an organizer, you can signpost the things that are important to you, and you can at one level, one of your jobs is to honor the behaviors that you like best. So if, for example, attendance, I'm a big fan of attendance. I think attendance is super important in any community. I think it's a bit the sort of the baseline. And so when I'm now thinking about gamification in communities, I'm thinking, okay, how can I honor good attendance? So it's things like, do I give a badge for, hey, you've made the last 3 in a row, 3 in a row, you get the 3 in a row badge, or you've come back after a long absence. Hey, you've got the welcome back badge. That kind of because I'm thinking about attendance as a general good, not just for the individual, not just for the group, but also for the individual. Because to be honest, if people aren't attending, then the group doesn't happen, does it? So asking about which bits of the design now. In a different setting, you might say, well, actually, what I'm really lacking here is people showing digital encouragement. In a physical setting, we'll all clap, won't we? Someone says something good, we all clap. Or in a Pentecostal church, they'll go, yeah, come on, you say it. Or whatever. Different communities will have different ways of expressing that. And so we might decide, actually, gosh, people put stuff onto our online forum, but no one ever likes it. No one gives any encouragement. So why don't we kind of make that let's focus in on that, and let's honor the people who click like the most, and they are biggest encouragers, and we can say, encourager of the month or something like that. And it's not about saying we want to channel everybody just to do this, but it may be about picking the sort of the behaviors that we want to highlight, and finding some measure or proxy measure, like a like or comment, that allows us to reward that.
So a lot of the community platforms that I deal in on a week in, week out basis have some level of gamification, built into the platform automatically, and they usually have some kind of points or badges or leaderboards, that are in there. I wonder about the extent to which organizations just kind of turn these platforms on without a great deal of forethought. And I know it's one of the things you bring up as a point in your book is having a prime directive to start out with. I'm wondering for organizations that they've just purchased a community platform, they want to turn it on. One of the things that I'll usually say to them is, before you turn on any of the badges or the missions that are kind of standard out of the box things for your platform, like, why don't you get the community going first and then turn on the gamification once you've had a chance to think through what it is you're actually trying to do with the platform. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about like how you start engaging some of those leader teams about their prime directives.
Yeah. So I think that's good advice. It's good advice. Obviously, community first, then the gamification. One way I would, as you were talking, one way I would think about it is that the prime directive helps you as a group, as the organizing committee, if you like, to know what it is, the behaviors you want. That's why I'm saying, first figure out what is the. Don't be fuzzy. Don't be, I just want people to come to my community more. Be specific. I want people to encourage more. I want them to regularly attend events. I figure out which bit is your prime directive, and it may be the prime directive for a season. One of the keys with good gamification, I think, is it evolves, it changes. As your community changes, as the needs of your community, you'll move. The gamification should move with them. What's necessary for people just starting isn't what they need when they end. And the same true for individuals and communities. So gamification is always an ongoing evolutionary process, and it's so and the way the way to do that, and you can do this at scale, is to leverage kind of, probably your most powerful piece of gamification is when you, as the organizer, say, this is what's important to me, and we're gonna honor this every month on Tuesday. On Tuesday, on the first Tuesday of every month, we're going to have honor, the awards day, and you run your own little mini Oscars, whether that's by chat or by over with a Zoom call, and honor the people who have done well on the gamification that you've done that week, and then it becomes much more human. But the key thing is that actually all the metrics, people kind of they kind of get sort of dashboards sort of blur. It's like, oh, more metrics, and we every digital system gives us hundreds of metrics, whether you're the organizer or the individual. If you're on LinkedIn, you get 100 metrics. What matters to us as individuals is some other human saying, hey, you've done a great job. And so it's the gamification is just the kind of part of the mechanics which allow the human conversation about what matters to us as a community, and honoring great behaviors that we want to see others do.
I love that. I love that. So thinking about those behaviors that we want to drive, and maybe implementing a gamification program for an organization or a community. Are you a proponent of starting small and expanding, or like how expansive do those initial gamification challenges need to be? Because I think of some successful gamification things like what we have for like Stack Overflow, and like maybe they're just kind of focusing on one thing, and there's like one element of gamification, you've got a score, and that's how people compare each other. Like I've seen some out of the box gamification systems that feel very overblown and bloated. I almost want to turn off 90% of it to begin with.
Yeah, and that's a great instinct, and I think absolutely, if you can turn off 90%, that's a great way to start. Yeah, so very often we run the error of seeing something like Stack Overflow and saying, wow, this is the most sophisticated gamification system, that's where my gamification system must need to be that sophisticated to appeal. It's not true. Actually, Stack Overflow, any of these gamifications, they start simple with one or two things, and then what you're seeing is something that's been iterated and added over time to be quite sophisticated. So no, and yes, I agree with you in the sense that good gamification, you start with something, you get it in front of your audience and see how they react to it, because a lot of gamification don't care. So you've got to see that people care, and it's honestly it's so one of the things I've seen with all gamification programs is very quickly if people care about your gamification. It doesn't take forever. You should see a spike of it. I mean, whenever I've published a leaderboard that people are interested in, you just get this huge spike, because everybody in that community and all their friends suddenly come and see, where's Toby on this? Where's Todd? How come Todd's above Toby? Oh, who's this guy? I don't know. Who's this lady who's sitting over everybody and just knows everybody. So that kind of that mechanic of does gamification work? I think you can find that out quite quickly. You can throw things away and say, okay, we tried that last week, that was fun, but we're going to do something else this week which might work. So I would really encourage any designer to treat the gamification with lightness, and just have a go with something, and then if it lands, then iterate and double down on that and say, okay, how do we do this better next time? From a design point of view, I come from a kind of a belief system really that says that there's always a score. So I mean, one of the other ways I think about it is like score is there's always a score. It may not be explicit. You may not know what the score is, and actually that presents the gap, and that's the opportunity into which we come as community strategists or community organizers. We say, if someone's in my community and they don't know what good looks like, it means you haven't done the good job of saying this is the score. So I think gamification is about saying we're making more explicit what a good behavior in our community looks like. So for you as a strategist, I really, the point is not the thing. Is the point is there is always a score. We just may not have articulated it properly, and part of our job is to articulate a good high quality score that drives not just good individual behavior, but the better results for the whole community.
Yeah, I love that orientation. I see so much gamification tends by nature of the systems that are in place to deal with individual accomplishments. I would love to see more gamification systems that look at like overarching goals, like members of this community saved X amount of time in efficiency because they work together, in this particular way that we're trying to drive. I work in a smoking cessation community, and like it'd be wonderful to be able to point to a gamification metric saying people who set their quit dates on this site from tobacco or nicotine products have saved 1,000 years of life. From what they've done. I mean, having those kinds of accomplishments or milestones that we could call out on a monthly or annual basis, I feel like would be powerful drivers of motivation for many people.
Yeah, totally. And so when and we talk about this, I talk about this a bit in the book, and is that there's the default setting is often individual versus individual gamification, but actually there's real power in team versus team. And actually I'm contributing to the this cohort versus that cohort, this northwest people versus southeast people. You as the organizer, you get to choose what the right appropriate split is. I've seen quite a lot where they just make up teams that kind of along the Hogwarts kind of,
Sure.
Gryffindor and Ravenclaw and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So you get to choose it. Again, don't choose things. Don't put Hogwarts houses onto an insurance community. That's gonna that's gonna you still got to culturally translate it. But if the insurance community, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know insurance well enough, but but there might be something. You might have the marine insurance versus the car insurance or whatever it is, but there will be communities that the teams that you are happy to honor and allow people to kind of say, yeah, my contribution in this community has supported this team, and our team has done well this month, this year. That's all good. And there's lots of ways. Don't just go, oh, it's not going to work because of the maths. Ask someone who's good at maths, and they can figure out averages and best scores, and you can put it into a spreadsheet, and don't worry, you will be able to come up with something that's relatively fair. It can be difficult. So this is from someone who's run something, been part of something called the Running World Cup, where it's really difficult when you've got different scales of runners and all different apps and Stravas and kilometers, and you're trying to do it in globally and it is difficult to create a fair team v team scoring. I'm not saying it's trivial, but generally I think it is possible, and if you can achieve that, it's great, because you get this wonderful dynamic where even if I only do one thing, I've still helped the team.
Yeah. We're talking to Toby Beresford, author of Infinite Gamification, and new friend. Your company that you're putting a lot of work into now, or organization you're putting a lot of work into right now, is Bible Society UK. I wonder if you wanted to drop a quick plug about that, and maybe before you do that, just a quick shout out to a couple of people that are on the chat here. Victoria, jumped in and was talking about starting simple is important to long-term gamification. Really love to hear your insights as you're kind of dropping in here as well. And a shout out to Amy Jo Kim, who's been a guest on the show before. And wonderful if you just stop by. Thank you for that. Lovely to see you as always. If you don't know Amy Jo Kim's work, everybody, I recommend you check it out in her game thinking book as well. I had the pleasure of participating in her master's session on journey design last year, which was really illuminating and a great experience as well. So yeah, Toby, tell me about the Bible Society. What's your work you're doing there?
So we're a 204-year-old organization. We're tasked with bringing the Bible to. Actually, I work for the British version of it, and there's an American one called American Bible Society. But we have a kind of a 200-year kind of remit to distribute the Bible, but also to bring Bible engagement. So helping people to engage with the Bible through whatever medium they're interested in. And one of the things that we are actively working on, and actually, if there are people on your call who who are passionate about this, I'd love to hear from you, particularly from the community side. Is we want to spur Bible engagement communities. So people meeting in small communities, but to discuss the Bible and to travel with it. And we're really interested. We know that people who've done that, who've been part of churches before, and that that's been a really rewarding and part of their life journey, and we really love that, and that's great. We want more of that, please. But we also want people bring people who are who've never read the Bible, but are interested in spiritual things and are open to it, to get together and to have an open conversation. So that's my kind of that's my main kind of commute. It's great to talk to other community people, because actually we're very interested in what the communities around the Bible might look like. And I haven't actually got to the stage of thinking about gamification. We're still right at the early stage, but
it was going to be one of the questions I asked you. I was like,
oh,
do I ask him that question or not?
yeah, I know. Well, there will be, but we're right at the beginning of this, because I think, again, yeah, we're right at the beginning of this. And actually, I mean, you can go to, there are big Bible apps who have started to think about what does gamification look like in streaks, in terms of personal reading, and there may well be something in the groups, but it has to be, we're right at the beginning. And again, I think there's and this goes back, coming back to the whole kind of community gamification. I think there is something about opt-in versus mandatory gamification that is an important dynamic in any gamification design, and it really does affect what it is you do. And so one of the reasons I love Fitbit is it's an opt-in dynamic. It's, Toby, do you want to get fitter? Get a Fitbit. Play the Fitbit game of doing 10,000 steps. I've opted into that. No one's told me I had to. I think if I was told by maybe my doctor, I might listen, but certainly my work, I might not be. I'd be like, oh, why do I have to do this? And so there are definitely gamifications that is the opt-in, and then gamification that's mandatory, and you have to be cautious with how, when, and how, and what you deploy in those situations.
And that's such an important point, because I come back to something you said earlier, like if you don't want to set a Hogwarts in your insurance company business, right? Like the gamification has to be in harmony with the culture of whatever it is that you're creating. It otherwise it comes off as being very tone deaf, and then if you're automatically opted into it, that's a recipe for resentment, right? And it's something I actually struggle with so much of the community platform world that's out there. The way that they've enabled gamification in those platforms is it's either on or off for everybody. And so your option, if you don't really care about the gamification piece, is, well, just ignore it and don't pay any attention to it. But why do I have to see it? If it's not important to me.
Yeah, I think it's, to be honest, I think that's a critique you can apply to an enormous amount of software, actually, that there's not enough off buttons. I don't know, we've got a Salesforce system at work, and I'd love to turn off a whole set of the sort of too many options, and you just don't need it, do you? Yeah, so there we are. That's a plea to the community managers. Make sure, community platform creators, make sure it can be turned off, but also, as you were asking for, granular. So you give the ability to the organizer to turn things on and off. And I think that's absolutely right. But as I say, if you can't do it, don't worry. Just let it all be there, and people become dashboard blind, and they metric blind. But then, as long as you're doing that human kind of human piece about publishing something that looks, this is the gamification. It might be a PDF with the banner over the top, and it's got the nice leaderboard, or it's got the nice badges, or whatever. That counteracts that, and people will very quickly say, that's what's important. This is the way we keep score around here, and they'll ignore the other metrics, or they'll see them as secondary, which is what you want.
Yeah. I wanted to come back to something you said earlier that I think is fascinating and a really important area to cover off on, and that is, and I'm going to paraphrase you a little bit here, that the idea that people will vote with their feet. You'll know very quickly whether a particular gamification approach is working or not. You'll see a spike in activity. You'll see some greater engagement over time, and if not, then you kind of turn it off and go your way. I'm wondering if, in your experience, if you have any sense of what that tempo should be of experimentation. Like, is this something like, I've turned on my gamification, am I going to know within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, if it's an
Oh
active
yeah.
community? Like what is a good tempo for me to maybe start out with to try?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is a good question. I have to say that my my experience is that it's usually immediate. You know,
Yeah.
if you gamification should capture the imagination of your community immediately. Now, you may have a missing channel, they may not even be listening to you, but if you've got them, you get them so quickly. So I'll give you an example. So um, uh, Chris Walkie, who's a friend colleague, he came to me when I was running leaderboard, and he said, "Well, okay, Toby, just try. I hear all what you're saying. This is way back, but let's just show me. Okay, we'll do." And I knocked up a lead, and he said, I really like champagne. It's my kind of my kind of part-time hobby, and I've got a dummy site around champagne called Glass of Bubbly. And so we said, okay, we'll knock up a leaderboard, and we put all the champagne houses in France on it. And we said, okay, and he sort of put it on his website, and sent it out, and we pinged it to some of them, and thought nothing of it. The next day, he said, my traffic's gone 550% up, and
Wow.
you look at the map on Google Maps, and this small region of the Champagne region of my France, they were all looking at this leaderboard. They were all, wow, what? Who
Obviously
is?
they cared about
You
it.
can
Yeah.
imagine them. Who is this person? What is this website? What are they doing? And then from there, he's then launched into a whole community, and now he's very much embedded in actually the champagne and a sparkling wine community, and that's, which has been great. And it's a good example, though, that in that sense, funny enough, the gamification almost came before the community, because he started with he didn't start with the community. But yeah, I just think that good gamification, you should you should very quickly see people buy into it. There's that sense of buy-in, that sense of, hey, this is important, because what you're saying is, this is important, this is what success looks like in our community, this is what good looks like. You are leading, and this is your community strategy. This is the gamification, in one sense, says the strategy and the direction for our community, and these are the steps that you can see to get here, and these are the people who are doing well at this now, or the teams that are doing well at this now. So if people aren't buying that, then shovel it away, move on, get another one. And yeah, the cadence for coming back and trying something new, that's going to be depending on your community. If your community's a daily one, then you can do it quickly. But if you're like me, I kind of tend to work with either weekly or monthly communities, so these things can take time. The other kind of key piece of advice in that vein actually is nobody gets too upset if you get it wrong. You're not, unless there are ways to get it wrong. So that, I mean, I'm trying to think of way. So the biggest mistake is often to offer a prize and get that wrong, and then something that when there's something tangible at
And
stake, then
extrinsic
people can,
motivator, like here,
the extrinsic, yeah, like we had one, for example, where there was an iPad on as the prize, but it was a global community, and so an iPad in the North America or Europe is quite a different sort of prize from one in Bangalore or in Shenzhen. So the people for whom that represents a month's salary or 2 months' salary, their engagement in the game was way off the scale of what
course,
was natural. So you can see that sort of dynamic happen as well, and that would be poor design, but it happens.
So I mean, that's a great segue to talking about. I think something you talk about is the player maturity model too, because in certain levels of gamification, I think you call it like the teenager level, they're trying to game the system to get the maximum reward for it. But I mean, gamification, as I've had the training that I've had over the years in it, I try to think of it in terms of where a particular member of a community is in their journey and in their maturity over time. How do I design to engage people at all 4 levels? I forget what they are. Is it it's like the baby, the teenager, the adult, and the senior? I think that you expressed it as.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's good. I think, again, I mean, coming back to Fitbit, it's so the baby throws it out because they don't know what it is. Okay, so and that's more of an encouragement to you that's possibly as a designer. Look, if someone says, look, I don't like this at all, you just need to be careful you take it with a pinch of salt, because some people will just reject things before they understand it. The kind of the teenager use case, to a certain extent, we're designing for that. We do want people to game it, and the important thing is that gaming it shouldn't, even if someone games it, all they're really losing is the only person who really cares is themselves. If that gaming of the system affects others, then again, that could be weak. Then the mature usage is this idea that you're looking at the score, and it's one on your internal dashboard that you're using. It's one of your signals, and you're like, I need to keep an eye on that one. Oh, for example, if we go back to that one we talked about earlier, how many encouragements have I done this month? If I was a mature member of your community, I'd think, look, I must make sure I've encouraged at least 20 people this month. So I might be in your community, and every month I'll just check my like score to make sure I've done at least 20 likes, and I think, oh gosh, I was a bit of a lurker last month, must do better next month. That's giving me that mature feedback. And then the senior, well, that's somebody who's kind of either they may be off on a different journey, or maybe they've just got to the point where they've internalized that behavior. Every time they see a post on the community they like it, and they're naturally doing 20 to 30 kind of likes a month. And I've seen that with my own kind of practice, actually, that at one stage you suddenly realize that even if the machine doesn't tell you your score, you know it, and you kind of know, oh, I've done enough. So in terms of your question, how do I design for that? I think keeping it simple to begin with, and then just watching behavior, and then iterating it and tweaking it, and just keep the key for me. The key to good gamification is still, that iterative piece. Don't just put something out there and say, okay, I've done it. It's not that sort of thing. This is the score system for for your community. This is C-suite level stuff. It's not something you devolve down to your developers. These are the KPI dashboard that you're giving your individual community members, that is signaling what are the behaviors we want as a community. So I'd really strongly encourage you to get involved at a strategic level gamification. It shouldn't be something that's just left to as a kind of a nice to have at the end. No, this should be core to any community.
Yeah, and an entirely separate strategy from your go-to-market community launch and what you're doing. Like I almost want to be 3 to 6 months into a community launch when I start thinking about how gamification really starts showing up in this. Like I may have some core metric or something that I'm looking at the outset that may be a game thinking kind of approach to what's there. Maybe I've got a badge or something like that. But like thinking of community in terms of waves of release of things over time, like iterating it over time. And making sure that if there are different levels of members who are coming into the community, that as you're releasing new things, that you've got something for each one of them as they go. So the messaging of your book really hit home for me as I was looking into that.
I think that's good. I think so. I was just a thought on that, which might help others here, is that you're. If you are leaving at 6 months, which is cool, one of the things that does give you the chance to do is see how the community is honoring each other within themselves. So if you're taking the Stack Overflow, someone will say, great answer, won't they? Great answer, thanks dude, you've really saved my bacon, great answer. And that's a signal to you, okay, I can have the save my bacon badge. You can just borrow from, you can be a listener. A gamification listener is perhaps a really great sort of thought, is how do I listen to how my community is gamifying itself and honoring each other and rewarding and recognizing each other, and then I wrap that into a sort of a more formal system from the front, if you like. So I think your idea of kind of bringing it in later is absolutely spot on.
You've brought in another thing that's been a little bit of a sore point for me in a lot of online communities, is the gamification system is built as an automated system, which is great for sustainability and fairness in application. But I've seen very few applications of gamification where a member of the community can award a badge to someone else in the community for behavior. So more than just like a like on there, that you can be sent a badge for a particular purpose. You can nominate somebody for a badge, even if there's like a vetting process for that to be in place. I'd really love to see a little bit more of that in the world as well, where the community is actually recognizing others in the community for wonderful things that they do.
No, absolutely, and that talks that's going to be specific to different types of community and what you want to achieve, whether you're very edge or net central. But yeah, no, definitely there's lots. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's probably another thing perhaps to take away, is that actually the gamification isn't limited to the system you're given, is it? If you think what's important for your community is something else, you can probably implement it in some form or shape or form. It may be a bit manual. You might have to do a sort of a search and all the rest of it, but you could have a hashtag, couldn't you? You could just say, let's have a hashtag, love your neighbor, or thank you to hash thank you to, and then you can search for that at the end of the month, and then you surface them in an email and say, hey, these are all the thanks that people gave each other this month. So you're not limited as a community manager to the gamification you're given. You're in charge. Yeah, this is your group, and I think allowing gamification to work for you is about creative ideas like you've just suggested.
So, Toby, this has been amazing. I can't believe like the hour has just been flying by for us here, and we've touched on a lot of things. And I feel like we still just sort of skimmed along the surface of a lot of these topics. I hope that for any community builders that are in the process of thinking about implementing points, badges, leaderboards, gamification elements, into that experience, that it maybe challenges your thinking about what you're going to do, that it forces you to take a step back and go slow, to think about the kinds of things that you're going to be putting into place around this work, because it is worth the time to think through and make sure that it's something that matches your prime directive for your organization. I've seen over the years a declining opinion about gamification from a lot of community professionals, community builders, saying like, it just doesn't work, or I've never gotten any good results from it. And I think it's for the very reasons we're talking about, that they haven't really spent time treating it seriously as its own strategy and its approach. And for that, I'm grateful for the work of people like you, Amy Jo Kim, BJ Fogg, Yu Kai Chow. Like there's a lot of good thinking out there for people to look at that will help you build a better program around all of that work. So again, thank you for your insights for all of this. Before we go, I wanted to acknowledge you. I know you've got many other projects and things that you're working on. One of them is Portalry. I wanted to give you a chance to give a quick plug for that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So as I briefly, I'm really interested in attendance, and I'm super interested in recurring meetings. That's my kind of little side. It's a bit of a side project, side hustle, but I'm really struck by the power of getting people back, regularly, whether so what Portalry does is it kind of takes that recurring meeting, first Thursday of the month, second day of April every year, whatever it is that you come back to, and allows anybody to kind of subscribe to it in the same way that you become a member of a meetup or whatever, and then it'll help remind people and bring them back together to that recurring meeting every month. And the portals are the different places that you go off to, whether it's a Zoom meeting or that you've got a Notion or a TikTok or whatever. But so I've been working on that as a bit of a kind of as a side project. And if anyone's listening and are interested to go on that journey with me, I'd be delighted. As I say, it's just I'm just very interested in whether I think we've underused, particularly in the online space, that kind of the power of a regular meetup and ensuring it's that anyone, it's a community have decided we're going to meet up every Thursday at such and such a time. So that's what Portalry is for. It's for those communities that have decided that they want to meet up regularly.
Love it. And I think it follows with your theme of trying to create repeatable behaviors for people, and to make those engaging and wonderful experiences for all. So thank you so much. I think Victoria said she was having trouble opening portalry.com because I think it should be portalry.com. There we go.
Oh, Victoria, thank you so much, Victoria, for your thoughts on this. I mean, it's lovely seeing them here on the chat, and Victoria's great. She's got tons of stuff here. I just highlight that point. She's saying she's heard of people giving gold tokens to colleagues. So you give out 10 gold tokens and then they reward them each month. I mean, that's another great, very creative gamification idea, not too difficult to do, doesn't necessarily require lots of systems, but it's just a good idea. And if the community buys into it, fabulous.
That's great. And I begin to think a little bit about the potential, like as AI has had this disruptive force in the tech world. It's making these sort of do-it-yourself gamification elements, I think, maybe more realizable, more doable than they have been before. Even to just kind of try and see how they could work. So maybe I don't know your feelings about like how AI is sort of impacting things, but it might be a good note to end on as well.
Yeah. So we're all dealing with AI in so many different places. I think one quite I've got a couple of hopefully helpful thoughts. They're not necessarily totally aligned to this conversation, but they're one person would say, with any new technology, you've got to split them into is this something that's going to be operationally transformative or strategically transformative? Is it going to improve what I'm already doing and do that better, which is the operational transformation, or is it allowing me to do something new, which is the strategic transformation? So I think whenever you you look at a new technology, thank you, Victoria, any new technology, you have to look at it with those lens, and the operational piece is, this is going to improve productivity. This helps me to, if I'm a community manager, answer queries more quickly, or create better, faster content. The strategic transformation, I think, is where I always tend to be interested, because that's where suddenly these new things come out that you just weren't expecting, and suddenly you have these large language models have these strange emergent properties that all of us human beings are like, whoa, that's weird. How come it's good at therapy? That's super weird. What have I got to do? And then suddenly you've got this therapy bot that nobody was expecting 4 years ago. I don't have any packaged answers for this, but I would really encourage that kind of thinking. Do think about it in both in the kind of the, how does this improve what I'm already doing, but also what is it suddenly unlock that's new that could create community in a new way. And I think it's super exciting.
I do too. I think this is the time for us to enter a playful state with these tools and see what can be done.
Yeah, great.
Toby, thank you again for being on the show. Grateful for your work, and we'll definitely be following all that you're doing with the Bible Society, with Portalry, and with gamification. For those of you who tuned in and stayed with us through the hour, thank you so much for being with us on this journey. Yeah. Appreciate you coming along. Again, as always, if you are so moved, please follow us on our YouTube channel, Clocktower Advisors, as well as here on LinkedIn. On the company page for Clocktower Advisors. We put up events on a regular basis, which, once again, reminding you of our next event, which is going to be Friday, February the 6th. I'll have my friend and colleague, Dane Dunstan, on, who is going to be talking a little bit about his book, Being Essential, and learning how to reclaim your community genius. And I think it's going to be a really fun, interesting discussion. Hope you join us for that. In the meantime, please step away from the screen. Step out into the cold, wear extra layers if you're in this snowstorm that we have imminently coming. But breathe in the air, see the sun, and take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't build good communities anyways. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. Thanks again for being here. Toby, thank you once again.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. And thank you to all the people who've listened. And let's build some great communities together.
Love it.